All right, we'll move on to resolution 2025-04. And this was brought to me as basically opposition to Senate Bill 1, the way it was worded before it had been amended. So I took the task and had a phone call with Ben. So we took out the numbers that were associated with it originally and tried to leave the intent of the message being sent intact. Before I go on with more questions or comments, I entertain a motion. I move to adopt resolution 5. Second. Motion by Bill and a second by Matt. Other comments? Resolution opposing Senate Bill 1, whereas state leaders and lawmakers have advocated for and proposed multiple pieces of legislation in the 2025 legislative session that will cut residential and business personal property bills for homeowners and businesses and change how these tax liabilities are calculated. Whereas homeowners deserve affordable tax bills and adequate public services in exchange, whereas the proposals garnering the most attention would have significant and negative impact on municipal taxing units, and whereas a local income tax adoption option could be a helpful tool for some units, however, it's not at all adequate to replace the magnitude of what is being eliminated, making it a necessity rather than an option. Whereas with an essentially mandated income tax increase being the only alternative proposed by lawmakers, the homeowners who these tax measures endeavor to assist will be among the same individuals paying the income tax, making businesses the only recipient of the tax cut. And whereas those individuals who do not own their own home would see a tax increase, whereas if the proposed measures are adopted, the Delaware County Council will be forced to make significant cuts across all county services. And whereas with the stress the measures being considered will put on Delaware County Department budget, bonding or saving money for new development will be nearly impossible, sending Indiana several steps back in our efforts to attract and retain a talented workforce. And whereas these unprecedented cuts in government services are being proposed when, despite the success of community crossings, municipalities and counties are employing legislators to at least preserve the status quo in terms of road funding so as to not compound the well-documented high percentage of Hoosier roads that continue to be in less than satisfactory condition. Whereas as of this date, the statewide local impact of the primary tax-related bills will cause widespread negative effect, increased tax burdens on individuals, while before offering even more relief to businesses in an already business tax-friendly state. Whereas the impact of these significant real property and business property tax cuts will result in Delaware County losing significant tax revenues across its taxing units. And whereas the impact of Senate Bill 1 would eliminate funding on top of Delaware County's annual loss to local government units associated with constitutional property tax. Therefore be resolved that the Delaware County Council opposes any tax policy that affects local units of government that does not come with a corresponding replacement revenue stream implemented by the state of Indiana and does no harm to the Delaware County Council's ability to carry out the expectations of its citizens and all Hoosiers now into the future. I think it was important just to state that out loud because, I think the sentiment is that, reduction of property taxes, regardless of your belief about whether you believe property taxes are valid or high or whatever the case may be, ultimately there's going to be an impact to local county government on anything that comes out of the legislature this year, meaning that we will see some level of leveling with no increase in tax revenue, potentially no increase in tax revenue, potentially a loss in tax revenue. All of that is unknown. The bill is in the House now, has been flipped over to the House. Our understanding, some of the feedback I've received is that, the House will add back some of those cuts, and so that the Senate did not deal with, and so we're most likely going to see a hit to county tax revenue. In comment, about Bill 1 started out as the governor's proposal, which was an absolute cut in property taxes and would have cut our revenue significantly. As it was originally introduced, my best guess was that we would need to reduce 60 to 75 counties. The Senate amended it to state that there would be no cut in our property tax revenue, but our max levy for 2026 would be the same as it is in 2027. It would be a 1% increase. 2028 would be a 2% increase. Our local legislators said, "Well, see, we're not cutting it." Well, yes, they are because of inflation. Inflation is running about 3% at the moment, and that seems to be a reasonable guess for the next couple of years. We're going to have to have employees in it because our revenue is not keeping up with inflation. So again, my best guess was that would require us to reduce between 30 and 40. What's more disturbing to me is, first of all, the governor says that local government needs to be more efficient. And he says we're going to have to prove that we are being more efficient. To me, our budget is our proof. We go line by line every year, and there's not the current phrase is waste, fraud, and abuse. our county budget. The other concerning attitude is just a misunderstanding of one local state senator from a neighboring county. Said that property taxes have gotten out of control because of what local governments have done. We don't control property taxes. We haven't for the last 50 years. They're strictly controlled by the state. They set the assessment rules. They set our maximum levy. We can appeal it, but never have. We live within it. And for them to think that we're the problem is more than irritating. It's maddening. And as my last comment would be that the governor got a 65% pay increase. Well said, Bill. Any other comments? Well, I think it's well documented that while I don't like property taxes, I can't figure out how else to fund the government. I like when I call up the sheriff goes up in the fire department, things like that. I'm sure there's others on this board. I use the president to pay something mountain attack. And probably could say the same things I just we've got to figure out a replacement plan, not just a cut plan. Michael Hicks had an interesting article in the paper yesterday, I believe. I don't know whether anybody saw it or not. His assessment was that Delaware County, the state of Indiana, has already probably one of the lowest property in the nation, and could not understand how the legislature could justify taking that revenue and decreasing it when it's already at a very, very, very low level nationwide. Yeah, for some of us who have lived in other states and other counties, we are afforded very low tax rates in the state of Indiana, which I enjoy, believe me. But you're right, that is exactly the case. And again, I think this comes down to a belief whether property taxes theft or however people describe it. That may be the case. We've had multiple conversations with Representative J.D. Prescott on his plan that he put forth in the House about how to replace the revenue. I think the biggest brief here is the fact that there's not a revenue replacement strategy on the Senate Bill 1. That's my. I might also add that at some point there's a fair amount of our budget that's mandated by the state, but they don't give us any money to. Right. Always seems like those mandated costs really right. Any other comment? Hearing none, roll call, please. Flanagan. Yes. Hughes. Yes. Vogel. Yes. Rookout. Yes. Camp. Yes. Piper. Webb. Yes. What's the council's pleasure for delivery of this? Assuming you want this resolution back to our local legislators as well, would you like me to include that with the magistrate? That'd be fine. I'd also like to make sure that this gets sent to Rick Green with the association of Indiana County Councilors. Just county. Yes. AIC. These are legislative. Rick Green. We don't have his name. Have Ryan Hoffman do that. He's the councilor. Ryan. Ryan. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All righty. Thank you.
Hey, here we go. There's Ryan. What up?
Hey, how you guys doing tonight?
All right, all right.
Pulled up the news and I saw through Indiana Public Radio what they did. I was like, you got to be kidding me. So I figured you'd be talking about it. So I was like, let me jump on here and see what's going on.
Well, so what's your thought on this?
Well, okay, I made a very long post. I commented on Indiana Public Radio. I shared it on my own page and I shared it in the community groups. What this is this is nothing but passing the buck on to the state for basically the county council not willing to do the tough parts of the job, right? They're taking the easy way out. It's easy to say, no, we don't want to give property tax relief to the citizens of Delaware County because we don't have another revenue stream. What they're saying is it's going to make it harder for us to balance our budget if we do that, right? Because a good portion, most of the county budget comes from property tax revenue. But I've been saying this for 3 years. I've been saying this. I read the article. Yeah. Councilmember Bill Hughes says there is no waste. There is no fraud. There is no abuse. Now, I don't know about the fraud, but there is waste. There is abuse. I've said it for 3 years. There's tens and tens and probably even hundreds of thousands of dollars, several hundred thousands of dollars of abuse and waste in the county council budget every single year. Go back and watch any of our budget sessions. I fight over it every year. And what it comes down to is I couldn't get 3 other council members to have the balls to side with me and make the necessary cuts that we had to make at that moment. So now, fast forward to today, what's happened? They've put it on the back burner. They put it on the back burner. Now they're talking about cutting 35, 40 employees. Now, I've also said that some employees need to go, but not actual employees, positions, right? Through attrition, through retirements, right? If someone quits, let's just not fill those positions. Let's not get rid of employees. You can do that over a period of 2 to 3 years. You can't knock out 40 positions to attrition. That means somebody's going to lose their job, right? That's an inhumane way to do it. I don't agree with it. And all that comes down to is because the current council members didn't have the guts and courage to do what needed to be done from the get-go. Now, moving on to the property tax. I said this when I was trying to come up with a plan of eliminating the Delaware County tax, right? Delaware County also has a tax. You got your property tax, you have your Delaware County income tax. And I come up with a plan during my research that every county has a sales tax. Every single county, all 92 of them. Just so happens all 92 counties are set at 0%, right?
Yeah.
No one wants to go first because it could have a negative effect on businesses. If I was able to get Delaware County to raise it to 2 or 3%, well, our farmers aren't going to go buy brand new combines here in Delaware County. They're going to go to Henry County, or same thing with cars at car dealerships. So it would negatively affect the businesses. However, this is something that all counties are going to have to do. All counties are going to have to implement some sort of revenue stream to offset this property tax reform, and I believe they're going to have to do it like most other states do in the form of a sales tax.
Sure.
The sales tax is already on the books. It's just at 0%. So let's just say you move it to 3%. What you're doing, you're taking the burden of funding the local government from property owners, right? Now you're spreading it out over everybody who purchases everything from a pack of gum to a brand new vehicle. Everybody's paying their way in Delaware County when you put the burden on a sales tax, not just property owners on the property tax. That's what I've been trying to do for a couple of years now. Never had the enough support to get it behind it. But with a situation like this to end property taxes, I feel like that's the way it's going to have to go. So all it takes is some council members to be a little bit creative and to be willing to make big swings.
Why is it that we, the taxpayers, have to live within our budget, but elected officials and department heads don't have to live within their budgets?
Well, that's a great question, Catherine. And when I say this, I'm sure there are people home watching like, that's bullshit. That's just putting the burden more on taxpayers. Listen, I'm not saying that's the only measure. That's just going to be a part of the pie. The other part of the pie is the council members are going to have to cut out the waste. They're going to have to cut out the excess positions. We've got departments that have 15 people that can be run with 11 people. We've got areas that is just completely wasted. I can't tell you how many employees have take-home vehicles that get replaced every 2 to 3 years that don't need take-home vehicles.
People have to vote differently.
Oh, that's funny you said that, because we have a Republican governor trying to implement his agenda, and then we have a Republican supermajority in the House and Senate and
can't get it
killing
over.
it. And now we have an all-Republican county council going against it. So I thought we were all on the same team, guys. We're all supposed to work towards our guy getting his agenda in place.
It's so crazy.
Somebody missed the memo.
Yeah, right. Well, so you said something really interesting there. You guys would spend countless hours and hours and hours on these budgets. You would set the budget, and then your first meeting in January, people are coming in and being like, wait a minute, I need this. I need this appropriation. I need this appropriation.
That
And
happened this year.
Yeah.
we said no to $100,000 in spending in the very first meeting of the fiscal year. They just came back and asked for it again. And nobody on the council even mentioned, like, wait a minute, we already said no to that. They're just like, yeah, that seems. Listen, everybody's making a lot of noise about Elon Musk and Doge and these career bureaucrats and how they know how to wait out these politicians. They know how to slow walk everything. They know how to hide their true intentions with their money. Well, you got to bring that down to a local level. We have the same thing in Delaware County. We have employees been there 20, 30 years who are department heads, who are high ranking. It's the same thing. You don't think that they've looked at me and said, all I got to do is wait him out. He'll be gone in 4 years. I'll be here another 20. It's the exact same thing. We
Yes.
need our own Doge here in Delaware County.
Yes. And I know you guys have talked about this in Madison County, and I know Ryan's been focused on this for a while. You brought up lit. So you think that's something that we're going to see? I mean, obviously, the state house is pushing that on all the local officials. What do you think is going to happen there?
I got a text today that said that Ridenour sent out an email today for the first time mentioning a planned increase in lit. Just today. I've been saying this for a year.
Yeah.
That they're going to try to raise your lit tax. And everybody's like, oh, you're fear mongering. No, I've sat behind the curtain. I've been a part of those private conversations. I'm not bullshitting you guys. I'm telling you, this is what they're going to do. And
The
now
increased lit is coming.
this is the off year. This is the year if you're going to do something that you should probably do it. They don't want to do something that would eliminate the property owners' property tax, right? They don't want to do that because that makes their job harder. But
Yeah.
they're considering raising the lit tax, which everybody has to pay. Does that make any sense? Doesn't make any sense. But
And then
you know
they're
what?
going to increase your assessed value, so you're really going to get stuck. So
Well,
they're-
they've been doing that. They've been
Well,
doing that. They've been
and that's
doing
what they
the
say. Well,
assessed
we're not
value.
raising your property taxes, but we're going to raise your assessment. People, you got to show up at these meetings.
You know
and
what?
you've got
What
to
blows
push
my
back.
mind? What blows my mind is people like Scott Alexander. I like Scott. You know, Scott, before he was in politics, he was just a citizen. He was part of that tax reform group.
Yeah.
Citizens Against Tax Property Tax. I think he started it, like
Yeah.
him and Chris Hyatt.
Yeah.
And he went to council meetings for 5 years as a citizen before he ever ran, which
Yeah.
blows my mind because they are the most boring meetings ever, right? I couldn't imagine ever going unless I had to be there. But so he goes and does this, and now he's in a position to do something about it. And what's he do? I don't know how he voted, but I would almost bet my car on it. I know how he voted. Right? He's
Yeah,
gonna
right.
go with the majority. And yet this was something that 10 years ago he would have been all about.
Oh, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
It's really unfortunate a lot of these folks forget where they come from and forget who they represent. They represent the people. It's not about what makes our job easy as council members. That's what I always say. Listen, it's not supposed to be easy. Who gives a shit if it's difficult decisions? And what they're facing now is they're understanding that that money's coming out from running out from the federal government that they got, that $22 million. That
Yeah.
money's pretty much done and over with. All the money's been set aside for certain projects. So the ARP money, that's going away. The only thing they have as a revenue source is Sheriff Skinner and his federal inmates. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you this.
Yeah.
I just clicked on that article right before I commented on your page. So I see that obviously Delaware County first is taking the lead in answering the governor's call. Is that something they've asked all counties to do, or did someone feel ambitious within Delaware County?
No.
That's typically not their MO.
Yeah, no. What's the group called, Ryan? The Association of Cities and Counties, AIM, or what's the other one that always puts on those trainings that you guys would go to?
Oh, Indiana Association of County Councils.
Something like that. Yeah, that and a couple of these organizations they're the ones that are coming up to it, and they're going to the county councils and saying, hey, will you do this and write this? We want to take this. And what they're going to do is they're presenting it. So like Delaware County, they'll present this resolution to Roway. They'll present it to Prescott, to Fievel. What's her name? The one that never does anything. I always forget what her name is. Sue Arrington. They'll give it to Scott Alexander, and then they'll also give it to the governor. They're in a package. They're going to give it to all of the representatives. And so what they're wanting to do is they're wanting to have, like, they'll give Delaware counties to ours, but then they're wanting to have a whole big package of this. They're going to like all 92 counties to see if they'll get this done. So no, this is not like a Delaware County thing. This is something that's coming up, you know.
They were just the first to step up and answer the bell.
And I don't know necessarily that there's. Did something say they were the first?
Well, I've seen Indiana Public Radio. They answer. I didn't see anything about any other counties, so maybe
Okay. That might be.
just didn't cover them. But here's what I'll say about this: This may not be an election year, but years go by fast. And before you know it, it'll be the spring primary for
Dude,
2026. And 4 of those council members will be running for re-election for either council or commissioner. And they're going to give opponents, people like me, talking points to go against them and have a reason to counter their failures of what they're doing as council members. So just gives people like me and others something to talk about when we take our case to the people of why to choose differently. I'm the only council member who can say that we never had to borrow money the entire time I was on the council. Nobody else can say that. And you can bet, mark my words, they're going to have to borrow money this year at the budget session. They're not going to be able to make it unless they have to fire 40 people. And they don't have the balls to do that. And I'll tell you why. There's an unwritten rule in county government that for every county employee, there's about 550 of them, for every county employee, they control about 6 to 8 votes. Right? Do the math on that. You're talking 3,000 to 4,000 people. They're not going to go and cut 400 or 35, 40 people and potentially piss off that many people when the elections come down to a handful of votes. It's not going to happen. That's why they would rather pull some garbage out and say, oh, we can't do it. We don't have a revenue stream, because they don't want to put in the work that's necessary for a position like this. This position needs someone who's willing to make tough decisions. And sometimes you don't always get those people in those seats.
That's absolutely true. All right, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Kat. Good seeing you. Keep giving them hell there in Madison County.
Yeah, you know it. All right. Thank you, brother.
Y'all take care. Bye.
Bye.